Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing episode 6 of the Maserati Biturbo series. In this video, Martin is going to be mounting the radiator system and then figuring out what he wants to go to next after that. Let's get right to it.
So as you guys can see, the engine and transmission's already mounted, the steering shaft is all connected, and Ferrari Steve, he has made the engine harness all worked out and pre-wired right here. So we're making good progress. Next step for me is to figure out the radiator situation and how the intercooler is going to lay on this project, and I'm going to show you my process. So as you guys can see, we have this factory bumper and the grille that doesn't let you have radiator straight down in this area, and you can see how close this engine is. We have about a couple inches, and then you guys can't see this because we don't have the fittings on there, but these are oil ports that we're going to be running oil coolers from, and these will stick out to here, and then we'll have a 90-degree fitting there, but you have to take that in consideration. So this front end is not really giving me that much of a space to work with. So I had to go online and research and find a smaller compact radiator that has really good flow and all the characteristics that we like. And what I ended up finding is a Scirocco. It's a VW old Scirocco radiator, which seems to be very, nice and small, and has a dual pass characteristic that we really like for cooling. So I went ahead and got some measurements, and this is the template that I made, and when you size it up, it sort of wants me to set it up like my drift car. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is what they call the V-mount setup, where the radiator sits like this and the intercooler sits on top over here. So when the air goes through here, the air will split going up towards the intercooler and down through the radiator, which makes it a really efficient and a great way to cool, these heat exchangers. I'm going to talk about key points on choosing the right kind of radiator. This is a Scirocco radiator that I found online. Well, not only the size was pretty much, the biggest and most suitable size we can fit to this Maserati. The fact that it's a dual pass radiator. What that means is, you can't really see this, but inside here there's a divider. So when the water comes in through this port, it flows this way and then flows back the other way. And I already capped this side because I already know that I'm going to have to change the drain place or the inlet, either here on the other side. Chose this radiator because of that configuration and its size. This is a custom fan shroud that I made. We love using this spool fan that has a big magnet like this. Basically, we've been using it on our race cars and drifting cars, and by far this is the best cooling fan out there on the market. Another thing is, when you make a shroud like this, as you can see, this shroud that I made is really slim. In the perfect world, I would want it a little bit thicker, so when the air comes through the radiator, you won't have, so much disturbance right here. But I have no choice but to make it as slim as possible. Another trick that I use is I like using this weather strip all the way around. So when the fan shroud sits on the radiator, not only you have a good seal, but it won't damage these aluminum radiators. So now that the radiator and the fan shroud is done, we can kind of size up to the car. But I like to point out that we are making the AC work on this car. So we will be installing the AC condenser in front of this before I can fully mount this into the car.
So now that Martin's got the radiator with the fan connected to it, we can kind of size up everything that we need. And we knew, based on the template size as well as now having that to test, that there was really two choices on making this fit the way we wanted, which was either cut part of this grill out and have the radiator stick about an inch or two below the actual grill. And if we did that, we would most likely just paint it black to have it match better. Or we could do what we've actually decided to do, which is to notch this little like crash bar. So it's got a dimple die setup here, and we can notch basically a little bit out of this to create that space that we need and still have a lot of that crash support still available to us.
Several days later.
So after a couple of days of waiting, Martin got the AC condenser in, and earlier this morning mounted the AC condenser to the front or top of the radiator. That was a super critical thing to get on so that we could space it out inside the car and have everything placed properly before making any decisions on where to mount things or how to mount things. After talking to Steven for a while, Martin has decided that the best way to go forward with what Steven has chosen is to do a V-mount setup. So the radiator and AC condenser are going to sit something similar to this. Martin is currently working on how he wants to actually mount the radiator and AC condenser system. And then once we have that, the intercooler will go just above this right here in this open space in a V shape. And then the intercooler will go straight into the throttle body right here. So Martin used a bit of tape and the welding rod that I showed you guys to just kind of hold the radiator and AC condenser roughly where he wants it. And now he's going to test the fit with the bumper. You can see that grill that's on the bottom of the bumper most likely will hit a little bit, and we already discussed that with Steven. Steven is okay with cutting a little bit of that grill and just having the radiator and possibly mostly just this fan and the fan shroud sticking a little bit below. It'll look a little bit more like race car spec almost in a way, but Steven was okay with that. He said, we're already going this far into the project with this whole engine swap. We might as well just go the full 9 and make it work.
This guy. Yeah, this bottom fitting on the radiator is hitting the grill. And I needed to change this angle anyways if I were to do a beam mount to meet with the bottom of this radiator inlet or outlet, you want to call it, up here, Corey?
Mm-hmm.
So this tubing has to go in here, and I have to make an angle change anyway. So I might notch this and try again. Okay, so since this fitting was hitting the bumper a little bit, I'm going to do a hard 90. And the water has to travel back up towards this way anyway, so I'm going to try to make this area as slim as possible, so once we mount it in the V-mount form, we'll have enough clearance for the bumper, so we don't have to trim the bumper as much.
So Martin put the condenser back on the radiator, as well as put the fan and the fan shroud on the bottom. And now he's trying to test the fit. You can see that his little modification here has made it fit a lot better on the bumper. But like we said, where the actual fan shroud and fan are most likely going to get cut on that little grill, so we can drop it down a bit and make everything fit the way we want. Martin is currently marking out what he's going to cut on the grill. He's trying to cut as little as possible. We're just going to cut out for now just these two little middle bars right in that little middle section. That way the actual fan can come down and just sit just a little bit below where the grill is now. Just light up. So you guys can see that little section right there, that one bar and their two the little second bar connection right there has been cut out. With that out, we should be able to put it back in there and kind of have it fit the way we want. And as far as the bumper goes, we'll be able to, mask it up and fix any coloring or paint that we want to later. That'll be something for way down the road. Now with those two out, Martin kind of set it where he wanted. It's fine. And you can see that basically the only thing that sticks out below the bottom of the grill is that fan. And because the fan is the same color, it should be all right. It's not going to be too noticeable.
The next day.
So after some planning, Martin has kind of made a decision on how he wants to mount the radiator. He's decided to use a 4-point mounting location setup. So he's got 1 point here, and then 1 point at each of the front corners as well, like that. Right now, this little steel bar is just tack welded, and then that's bolted to the frame right here with a little steel plate. And it's the same on the other side. In a little bit, Martin, you can take all this off, take the radiator out of the way, and then fully weld everything, and then be able to put it all back in for the last time. Now that Martin has all of the mounting locations for the radiator situated, before he fully welds it and has it completely settled, he has to make the actual inlet that goes to this, and he most likely will end up modifying this little water jacket as well to take up less space and be kind of more back here, and then run from here up to that. The sound of aluminum welding, it's great. So Martin finished welding up his little inlet piece that we added. And now Martin is going to reinstall this into the car once he has the AC condenser on. You can see the fan and the fan shroud are already on. And if you look inside the car, Martin has fully welded his little mounting pieces. And now that these are done, Martin will be able to install a radiator for the final time and then be able to move on to the intercooler and then eventually move on to the exhaust and everything else in the car. You guys can see it's kind of a tight fit to get it to slide past and get in there. Once it's in though, everything fits pretty good. So Martin got the radiator fully mounted in, tightened down. You guys can see everything's kind of a tight fit from the throttle body as well as to where the belts are up in there and everything. But everything seems to fit good, right where Martin wanted it. And now that we have that spaced out, we'll be able to size up our intercooler. It's gonna go right here, V-mount style, flat in front of it. We'll be able to know exactly how much sizing we have available to us and maximize our intercooler surface area as well as maximize flow. After that, Martin will be able to move on to the exhaust now that the radiator is out of the way. And Steve will most likely be making custom aluminum end tanks for the intercooler that mount straight to our coupler for the throttle body. So that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. In the next one, now that Martin has the radiator mounted, we'll be able to buy an intercooler and start working the process to get that mounted. And Martin will also be able to now work on the headers for the car and start building the exhaust system. We'll see you guys then.